Let me just start off by saying that some of these Spawn action figures like legitimately should be considered lethal weapons. Like you should be able to holster them. They're just lethal. Some of these have like gigantic spikes. If you articulate these figures, if you play around with them, you will have permanent damages on the tip of your fingers, okay? It just is what it is. It's like a hazard of playing with figures nowadays. But seriously, both of these figures are absolute fire, and I picked up both of these for really good prices, and I decided to kind of just share my thoughts with you with these two particular figures, and just give you guys an idea of how much you should be paying for these figures and where you're able to find them for the cheapest. In terms of this Aqualad figure, I was able to find them for, if I'm not mistaken, $9 at Walmart, around there, $8 to $9. It was in the clearance section. And then this Reaper action figure, I was able to find him for a grand total of $6 at my local Ross. It's crazy. I mean, Ross did have an insane amount of deals right after the holidays. I'm talking like January, February. I'm not exactly sure when I picked these figures up. I know Aqualad, I definitely picked him up way before the Reaper action figure. But regardless, I picked both of them up for a very, very decent price. Now, let me start off with the Aqualad figure, because this is the one that really caught my eye when I saw him in packaging. I did not pay attention to anything that was said about this figure. I remember it being announced. It just kind of went to somewhere in my tiny little reptilian brain. It's already incredibly tiny, and I can't keep track of everything that's being released or being announced. But I do remember this figure going up for pre-order and then eventually hitting a lot of different discounts online, but I was never able to find it for like $8 to $9, and I felt like, okay, I'll definitely give it a try. I'll see what all the fuss is about it, and I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised. Now, I will say the face sculpt and just the overall color tone that they used here for this particular figure doesn't match the cover appearance that, you know, is featured, or the comic book that is featured with this particular release. So I'm not sure if that's just if the cover makes him look a little bit lighter, or a different color palette for the character, or if the interior artwork is going to be a little bit different. But I did feel like, you know, the color palette that they used for the actual figure was different than his comic book cover appearance for this particular comic book, and it is supposed to be based on this particular appearance in a comic book form, so it's just worth mentioning. I decided to throw that out there. But in terms of the overall design for this figure, I love it. I love the texturing all over the body mold. They did a phenomenal job with the face sculpt as well as the hair. I love the way it kind of sways in front of his face, and, you know, almost like blocking his vision just a little bit. I definitely appreciate the amount of effort that went into this figure. I love the blades. It gives you options to either display it as if the blades were tucked away in the sheaths behind his bag, and it also gives you the option to actually have them in hand. And that's where this figure really kind of shines, when it has those blades in hand, when you're able to get him into some crazy dynamic poses. Now, I will say this is a McFarlane figure, and there are going to be some massive issues here that I feel like he definitely needs to address. I mean, he probably won't address them as he's about to lose the DC license, but that forward ab crunch has just never been there. I'm not sure exactly why. The backwards ab crunch is there. You have double jointed elbows, double jointed knees. You have the butterfly joints, really good neck articulation, but that forward ab crunch just is non-existent. I'm not sure exactly why that is. They probably could have cut a little bit on that, you know, like pelvic, soft pelvic area. And I know they definitely run the risk of making it look a little bit too gappy, but I think it's something that they needed to do just to be able to give this figure that next level of articulation. It's also worth mentioning there's no upper thigh cut, as well as no, what would it be, like a boot slash lower calf cut. So it's, again, going to limit the range of mobility in the legs and then the mid torso forward. But aside from that, this figure's just designed really well. I was able to pick them up for under $10. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if you go on, you know, whether it's Amazon or eBay or whatever different website you like to use that's not like a regular retail, I think you'll be able to find this figure for a very good price. In my personal opinion, if you're able to find them for about like that $10 to $12 range, I think you should definitely pick them up. Now, obviously, my review or my rating of this figure would be a little bit different if I had paid that full price for it, because, you know, I just don't really have any attachment to it. But it is a Page Punchers. It comes with that comic book. It comes with the extra blades. It comes with the ones that get ported into his sheaths. I love this figure. Even if I had paid full retail, if I had to give this figure a rating, I'd probably say like a very high 7, like a 7.8. That forward ab crunch, the at least one cut at the upper thigh, even though I feel like it should have 2 cuts. Bare minimum, I think it would have taken this figure to a completely new level. But I had so much fun posing it. I had so much fun articulating it and getting into some really good photography poses. And I definitely suggest you guys check out your Walmart clearance aisles, because it appears this is one of the first candidates to get clearance out. Now, the other figure being the Reaper figure, as I said, this thing is dangerous. Like, you're definitely going to get some fingertip damage. It comes with a really good, cool weapon accessory. And then the wings, I think we've seen the wings before. I'm going to assume it's the ones that they use for the Hawkman, as well as the Batman Who Laughs. There was like a deluxe Batman Who Laughs that had the wings. I'm going to assume it's the same, but at least it works, right? There's a bunch of texturing. The molding on these wings is just really well done, really well put together. From time to time, these wings are released with very little paint, but you can go in there and just add a little bit of a wash and just kind of make those little details pop. And that's exactly what I think most customizers are going to do, depending on, you know, what shade they want for the wings. I will say with the figure, it's a little bit bland in terms of the color palette that they used here. I'm not sure if that's just accurate to the source material, but there's something about this figure that just seemed like very boring in terms of the color. It's just kind of like this part of the body is this color tone, and that's it. It's kind of somewhat matte but vibrant at the same time. Again, maybe just another little extra wash on the figure will make those details pop, and I think that's definitely something that this figure was missing. Some of the plastic is just going to be one particular color. There's no paint on it, and that's a little bit frustrating, but it is a $20 collectible. And I also, let's not forget, paid $6 for it, so I'm okay with that. I will say it's a really cool, neat design. The articulation is going to run into the same issues that I just mentioned with the Aqualad. Double jointed knees, double jointed elbows, the soft pelvic area just does a great job. It helps you get this figure into some great poses. And then obviously the neck articulation is pretty good. The backwards ab crunch is really good, although I wouldn't say this is necessarily a quote unquote ab crunch, but the ab articulation on it backwards is really well done. Forwards, it runs into that same issue. There's just that overlapping soft plastic that just really limits the articulation forward. It's something that McFarlane definitely has to look at. Even if he decides to move on from the DC license, he needs to apply those things to his Spawn universe. Again, no thigh cut, no lower calf cut. It's really going to limit how you can swivel those legs. And I think that, like I said, just adds another layer of complexity with some of these Spawn figures. I will say, you can get it into some great poses. This is supposed to be a character that is kind of always like mid-flight, I'm assuming. I don't know who this character is. He could just be like a random Uber delivery guy that just flies everywhere. I don't know. He could be delivering food. He could be chopping people's heads off. I mean, his name is Reaper, so I'm guessing he does some damage. But as I said, this is a really good pickup if you're able to find him for that $6 price point. I was able to pick him up at Ross not too long ago. So if you guys are interested in picking him up, make sure to shop around. There are always great opportunities, great deals for a lot of these collectibles. I will say, if I was giving this a rating, and this is coming from somebody on the outside that doesn't really collect Spawn action figures, I would probably say this is a very low 7. I just feel like there's a great amount of detail with the wings, but we've seen them before. There's the spikes on the figure, but they're dulled out by the yellow. I don't know. Like I said, if it is accurate to the source material, the color palette on the character is just a little bit too boring to me. It's kind of a little bit too bright, and I feel like it should have been dulled down a little bit, maybe a little bit of a wash, just to make it pop a little bit more. But there you guys have it. I'm not going to ramble too much. I just wanted to showcase 2 really cool figures that I was able to run into out in the wild. 2 great deals. You're looking at a figure that I picked up in Reaper for $6. And then for the Aqualad, I think I paid about like $8 to $9 at my local clearance Walmart. So check them out. Try to see if you can pick them up at those price points, because I feel like they're just figures. I love picking these figures up at that price point, like that under $10 price point, especially if it's a new character or a new line that I don't really collect, because I can just play around with them. I can have fun. It's not so much that I desperately need these characters, but it's just about maybe getting some extra accessories, maybe some custom fodder, or maybe just getting some really cool action figures to have like in the background of your displays in some cases. So let me know your thoughts down below. Have you guys picked these figures up? Did you pick them up? And if you did you pick them up at full price? Because if you did, you may be ripping out your mustache hairs and your chest hairs out at this point. But let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, if you guys enjoy this type of content, make sure to stay tuned. We do this pretty consistently. We're doing it on a daily basis. Make sure to stay tuned. Enjoy the hobby. Pose your action figures. Play around with them. Just fully enjoy them. Get into the action. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.